welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle with the ASU strike.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
A very good morning to you. Thank you for staying with us here on Global Television. I'm Oyi Agumafwegbe. Welcome you very specially to Global Morning. It's a great day. Thursday, fourth working day of the week, but then it has also been one of the most challenging weeks for people across the world in recent times, whether it's at home in Nigeria or beyond even Africa. We understand that the issues around between Israel and Palestine is still raging, and that is not getting any better at this point, even though there are hopes that a truce could be called at some point, depending on how these whole efforts play out. As of this morning, for instance, we understand that Israel is still busy massing up men and equipment around the Gaza border, and in the meantime, right in the middle of that, the UN is saying, look, we need access to Gaza so we can give them as much humanitarian support as they require at these very trying times. But it doesn't seem those efforts are enough, that they are far-reaching because of the amount, or if you like, the intensity of bombardment that has been seen lately. Of course, it's no news now that Israel has been effecting retaliatory making retaliatory moves over time against Palestine. But the interesting part we must realize is that Israel says this is not a war. Of course, that's what Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, calls it, between his country and Palestine. He says it's a war between Hamas and Israel. Just yesterday, he made very clear, he said categorically, that Israel will wipe Hamas off the face of the earth. It will appear that even though in the last few decades there has been intense fighting, tension between Israel and Palestine, this is turning out to be the worst scene. And it's only hoped that it doesn't become, it doesn't get any worse than it's already turning out to be. Just a while ago, the states, Anthony Blinken Secretary of State of the U.S. Landed in Tel Aviv in the hopes that he would be able to meet with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu later. Of course, it's no secret. U.S. has said very clearly that it stands strong with Israel, that its support for Israel is rock solid. But what kind of support is Palestine or the Palestinians getting, who is throwing their weight behind the Palestinians? And whether you throw your weight behind Israel or Palestine or not, the ultimate concern is how can solution be found? How can these issues be resolved? Because both countries cannot continue to be at war. We've seen hundreds of people. As of yesterday, it was already over 1,600 human beings lost to this war. We have seen an entire family taken out on account of this war that started on Saturday, occasioned by the surprise attacks that Hamas from the Palestine side had launched against Israel. So all of these are the elements we must come to appreciate with regards to this war that is on between both countries. But then we have our own problems back at home, domestic issues, if you like. Concerns in our backyard around the economy, around issues that have to do with subsidy, and so on and so forth. We understand that there have been speculations, some people say even established, that subsidy is back? Or what account are we saying subsidy is back? What is the evidence? What's the data? What are the facts to support the possibility that subsidy is back? For those who are key players in the oil and gas space, they say, look, one way to show clearly that subsidy is back is that fuel still sells for between 550 and 600, say 600 on the average across Nigeria. So that argument basically is that if subsidy had not returned, given all that we know right now, the very drastic slow in supply of petrol, and then of course difficulty in accessing forex, fuel should be selling for give or take between 800 and 900 at this point. Recall that last week here we told you that there had been some reports that at least the federal government was going to pay no less than 1.68 trillion naira by way of subsidy, but the government has come to deny it. Just 2 days ago, we also brought you news as to how that the GCEO, that is the group's chief executive officer of the NNPCL, had said clearly that there's nothing such as subsidy. In fact, one of the scenarios he painted was you may have a few service stations, that is filling stations, that probably are selling at maybe 2 naira or 3 naira lower than other filling stations. So you see people naturally tending to want to patronize such service stations. However, other members of the public, other motorists will not understand the reason they are going there. So they think there's going to be this panic buy. I mean, there's going to be a scarcity of the product. So what that does is that it triggers panic buying, and in the end, you see queues at several service stations. But we'll wait to see how this will pan out. Ultimately, the concern will be that there's sincerity of purpose on the part of government, because that has always been the challenge of the public, especially Nigerians. When they notice that government is not sincere, when they notice that government is not telling them the whole truth, naturally they would react, and that would make government's job 2 or even 3 times more difficult. We'll look at the papers for you, as always, this morning on the show, and then we'll give you an insight as to Nigeria's independence. Remember that just about 11 days ago, on the 1st of October, Nigeria commemorated its 63rd independence. Even though at the time the government has said to us that this is just something we want to do on a low key, Nigerians still found a way to want to air their minds as to where the country had been 63 years and counting, and how they feel about the country as of today. We'll take a quick break now. When we come back, I will look at the papers for you. Let's begin with Daily Trust newspaper, everyone. Just below the nameplate of Daily Trust, it says, "Come clean on your identity crisis. Obi tells Tinubu APC warns against contempt. Stop financing budgets with CBN loans. IMF tells FG. President appoints Emeida NCC CEO, replaces NIPOS NIGCOMSAT bosses. Tinubu yet to reconvene FEC 44 days after inaugural meeting. Cancel meetings important to address current challenges. CSOs. Tinubu Shetima on 23-day foreign trips in September. President has different idea of FEC functions. Aid. Ministerial retreat delaying cabinet meeting. Source. Over 600 died of diphtheria in 10 months. That's according to the federal government. We understand that there was, we had a case of 20 new infections yesterday in Kano, and the Minister of Health, Dr. Ali Pate, had talked extensively about diphtheria and how government is also building up systems, making the right investments to ensure that it doesn't become any worse than it already is. Okay. But then we have a few headlines at the foot of the front page of today's edition of Daily Trust newspaper. Okay, it says Israel-Palestine war, death toll surges to 2,300. Bandits kill village head, kidnap many in Niger. 7.6 million Nigerian girls deprived of education, UNICEF. Okay, let's see. Why Nigeria must prioritize investment in infrastructure. MAN, that's the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. Of course, that's a no-brainer. Identify yourself to Nigerians, the word now. Obi challenges Tinubu. And then that has several riders on the front page of the Daily Times. Okay, it says, uninformed outsiders now see every Nigerian as potential fraudster, forger, ID thief. President cannot outsource defense on sensitive personal matter. All right. Says public office makes holders' life of public interest. Obi's befuddled APC replies. Obi is befuddled. APC replies. That's on page 4 of today's Daily Times. Then you go further down. Danbata's second term in NCC cut short. Maida replaces him as FG names new CEO's additional presidential aide. These are all stories from the Daily Times newspaper. Let's see The Guardian for you. Okay, but first we want to look at a big story on the front page of The Guardian. FX arbitrary rules leave telecoms to Big Four, cripple 568 firms. And there's a story here that says politicians corner 70% recruitment into tertiary institutions, says Ted Fund. So what can Ted Fund do to be able to win the war against that cabal as well, where politicians, according to the Tertiary Education Fund, Ted Fund, now corner 70% recruitment into tertiary institutions? How do we now get to address issues of merit, issues of experience, issues of capacity and competence if you have politicians, according to Ted Fund, now having to exploit the system up to 70%? Okay, EFCC recovers 41.78 billion naira from power projects, ex-AGF's ally, others. And the story with a picture of Peter Obi, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the last presidential election. CSU certificates, Obi backs Atiku, asks Tinubu to disclose real identity. Lagos Blue Line goes electric, increases daily trips to 54. That's some mileage, a step in the right direction. Okay, let's see. Police arrest undergraduate for killing club owner in sexcapade. Israel-Hamas crisis. Nigerians must resist divisions, tension, says Khan. All right. Okay, Blueprint is our next point of call. Let's see what Blueprint has got for us this morning, everyone. Okay, what does Blueprint say? EFCC on the trail of diverted fund for Mambila Zungeru power projects on page 7. U.S. investors eye Nigerian capital markets, urge regulatory reforms on page 21 of Blueprint newspaper. Nigerian startups face funding challenges amid global inflation, others. Tinubu sacks NCC boss, Danbata names new heads for NIGECOMSAT NISDA NTDC 9 posts. Tinubu's Chicago certificate not forged, BBC report. That report is flooding papers this morning and even digital media. We are not satisfied, Obi, Atiku. So what options do Obi, Atiku, and of course their political parties have in this case? But again, we understand that the BBC is not a court. However, the ultimate submission perhaps is that this case is already in front of a competent court, the appeal court. So that's an issue that should not become an element or an item for public debates going forward until the Supreme Court has brought closure to it. President needs no reintroduction. APC, Igbo Group tell ex-VP LP candidates. All right. What else? CDS to be complete soldiers, you must kill Boko Haram terrorists. That's quite a high standard that has been set to be complete soldiers. You must kill Boko Haram terrorists. That's the Chief of Defense Staff there, Musa, talking to his team. And NAF receives 2 Diamond 62 aircrafts in Ilorin. Concrete roads. Umahi issues 14-day order to contractors, vows to punish defaulters. I will return trust to government communication. Malagi. Minimum Hajj fare for 2024 is 4.5 million naira. NACON declares that's minimum. Okay. And then we want to look at the nation for you as well. The nation is loaded, no doubt about that, right? Why governors can't ban mining by Alake. Why governors can't ban mining. Yes, that's the Minister of Solid Minerals, Dele Alake, who now says that it is unconstitutional for states to be involved in mining activity. But that conversation has been long drawn out. We've seen the politics of it, we've seen the economics of it, and then we've seen the social concerns around it, including, as we now see, so much of insecurity right in the middle of it. All right? Only federal government has a right. That's a rider to that headline. Okay. Procurement fraud. The FCC recovers 27 billion naira, $19 million. Ex-governors under probe. Okay. Then big story. Nigeria leads demand for Africa's debt relief from IMF. There we go again. Bretton Woods institutions rejects blanket cancellation while inflation is rising by World Bank. All right. And then you have one here that says Tinubu holds Indigbo in high esteem, says Shetima. Tinubu needs not reintroduce himself, says APC. BBC, no evidence of certificate forgery by a president. Federal government orders road contractors back to sites. Work begins on 60 projects. All right. These are also what you should read up from today's edition of the Nation newspaper. But let's just go back to that big story for a minute. Nigeria leads demand for Africa's debt relief from IMF. You know, IMF has been talking so much lately about Africa and indeed the sub-Saharan Africa where Nigeria leads. Okay. And just to also mention that IMF has had its events in Marrakesh for a couple of days now. That's in Morocco. And one of the things we've seen coming out is that there has been a review of Nigeria's growth forecast. Now it has been reviewed downwards to 2.9% as against what we had previously. And then there have also been calls. These calls are becoming a bit more vehement for Nigeria to carry out a sweeping sort of sweeping reforms with regards to the banking sector, the economy, and all critical sectors within it. And then, of course, as it has to do with regulatory issues as well. We are going to take a quick break, everyone. When we return, we'll just talk to you a little about Nigeria, a country that has seen 63 years and is still on the move. whether it's in the area of the economy, politics, electioneering, and everything else in between. Even in the area of our foreign policy, at some point, some persons had even given up on Nigeria. In fact, people will tell you that, look, we are too challenged, we are too overwhelmed with challenges at this point to even have some clarity as to where we are heading as a country. But the question is, doesn't Nigeria look promising enough for us to believe in, throw our weight behind, and give all the support there is to? Abdullahi, as always, put this together for us.
Several eminent Nigerians who are considered heroes by many participated actively in the struggle for Nigeria's independence from the British colonialists. They attended constitutional conferences, formed political associations which later evolved into active political parties. 1st October 1960 ushered in a promising independent Nigerian nation. It was a joyous moment, a moment characterized by hope and high expectations. Several years after independence, Nigeria's unity was tested. A military coup, a counter-coup, and threats of secession. Breakdown of discussions led to turmoil and violence in the country. In 1967, Nigeria, the fairly new promising West African nation, found itself in a devastating civil war which lasted for 30 months. There were heavy casualties because hundreds of thousands lost their lives. Hundreds of thousands were injured and displaced. There was serious damage to infrastructures, but worst of all, the war and the events that preceded it created mutual suspicion on both sides and a crack in Nigeria's unity.
The first reason is we must fight this war because it was imposed on us as an imperial war. And they found an easy tool in the hands of Ojukwu, and they manipulated him. And they found willing tools in the Southeasterners, and they fell for it. So at the end of the day, we blooded our noses for 30 months. And nobody, that's why Gawan captured it, no victor, no vanquish. And to tell you how united Nigeria is, 9 years after the Civil War, somebody from that part of the region, an Igbo man, became the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That is the magnanimity, that is the integrative spirit, and that is the unity of purpose of Nigeria.
Apart from the Civil War, Nigeria has witnessed several ethno-religious crises, culminating in loss of lives and damage to property. These events have continued to undermine not only Nigeria's unity, but the efforts to develop the nation. Many experts believe that there is a strong disconnect somewhere. If both Islam and Christianity preach peace and peaceful coexistence, why has religion become a source of conflict and loss of lives?
Who is well grounded in Islam knows that killing a single soul intentionally is like killing entire mankind. In Christianity, a practicing Christian knows that to kill a neighbor is like obliterating the entire community out of existence. Then why did the current Nigerian Muslims and Christians find their own doctrines?
The kind of things that we have been experiencing in Nigeria is a combination of factors. There are times when some people they benefit from problems. If there is conflict, they will benefit. If you tear down the place, they will be given contracts to build it. Therefore, they will encourage you to tear it.
To me, what we need is to restructure the people.
It is the view of many eminent Nigerians that 63 years after nationhood, Nigeria has recorded tremendous achievements. Apart from development of infrastructure seen in the urban growth of many Nigerian cities, there are gains in many sectors of the economy. Nigeria is the most populous country in Africa and arguably the largest economy on the continent. Many consider Nigeria as the powerhouse of Africa. However, after 63 years of nationhood, many Nigerians equally believe that not much progress has been made in view of the quantum of resources that Nigeria is blessed with. Still suffering from debilitating poverty, Many are unemployed, and most recently, changes in the energy sector have further made life unbearable for many Nigerians. Many experts believe that Nigeria is a blessed country with unlimited potential of becoming a prosperous nation. However, these potentials will remain untapped for development until some variables become available or perform maximally for the benefit of all.
It has been re-echoed variously by all well-meaning Nigerians that the only missing link between our expectations and our present position is leadership. With good leadership, with responsible, committed, and sincere followership, the El Dorado is very much around. We will soon be there. Our destination is defined. Our dimensions is well located.
Danjuma Abdullahi.
Thank you, Danjuma Abdullahi, for that a brilliant piece put together there about Nigeria, its struggles, and its aspirations, as well as hopes. Let's take a look at a few more people for you. Let's turn to the Tribune today with a big story right on the front of Nigerian Tribune. It says, Tinubu's certificate, Atiku presses on, Obi weighs in, APC hits back. Obi to Tinubu, tell Nigerians your true identity, follow my example. Atiku tells President, you have no regard for judiciary, APC tells Obi Atiku. A peace not negotiable in Benue, Army warns. 8 years after, 2 pipeline vandals who killed 7 DSS officers in Lagos convicted. FG to partially commercialize dams under its 12 river basins, Minister. Lagos to increase Blue Line trips from 12 to 52 Monday. Deputy Governor's impeachment on those CJ Rights Assembly. Mambila Zangeru Power Projects. EFCC recovers houses in Lagos, Abuja, Cross River. Alleges funds meant for projects diverted through BDCs. Okay, let's see the top of the Nigerian Tribune now. It is unable to load petroleum products, Ipman. 6 Joint Security Task Force to tackle crude oil thefts. No to TED funds intervention in private varsities. ASU is the one to whom that is credited. Okay, that's been a long drawn-out contest as well, whether or not private universities should have access to resources provided by TED Fund. ASU believes it should be strictly and exclusively for public university system. But let's look at the Punch newspaper, the penultimate on the show this morning. From above the nameplate, the headline there with a picture of the Minister of Finance, the coordinating Minister of Finance, that is. All right. Lower inflation, protect poor citizens, IMF tells Nigeria. EFCC recovers 27 billion naira, $19 million, probes ex-governors, ex-ministers. And one with a picture of Minister of Solid Minerals, Dele Alake, says it's unconstitutional for states to regulate mining, says FG. Certificate forgery, Atiku Obi protest as BBC fact-checkers clear Tinubu. BBC says documents confirm President CSU diploma, APC carpets Atiku Obi, PDP LP tackle Tinubu, says certificate issue tarnishing nation's image. Air Force launches new aircraft, awaits attack helicopters. Ohaneze hails Igboho's release, asks Tinubu to free Kano. But again, it appears that that's a different conversation altogether, because as it stands right now, Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, is in detention. Is being tried. We understand that his fate will be decided sometime on the 15th of December. So it's a bit of a challenge. However, there are people who have called for quite some time now who have asked that there should be some sort of political solution to this issue. The question is, what will be the protocol for that? Are we going to withdraw the charges against him and then switch to seeking political solution, or how is that going to play out? But then again, the president has a role to play in all of this, because this call had been made while we had former President Muhammadu Buhari in power, and then he said the case was already in front of the court, so there was next to nothing he could do about it. Has that changed? Is there anything, and how much of it can President Bola Tinubu do under these circumstances? He's the leader of the executive arm of government. He's not the judiciary. So what really can he do? Because all the calls are directed at the president to release Nnamdi Kanu. All right. Then we see two more headlines here. All right. Lagos demolishes structures obstructing drainages. Details of that story are on page 14 of today's Punch newspaper. Diphtheria kills 600 in 19 states. NPHCDA recommends face mask. And then our last paper for today happens to be Business Day. Okay, the big story here says FGI's new tax reforms, conservative oil benchmark. Nigeria third most sought after for investment. Edu, now chair of World Bank's Africa Governors Forum. How Israel-Hamas war could affect Nigeria's economy. But just yesterday and the day before, we had been told that the impact of the war will be minimal on Nigeria and its economy. But again, we'll follow the events as they unfold. Upgrade concerns as FG prioritizes international airports over local ones. A regulator respects ExxonMobil Seplat to network $1.28 billion deal. Obi asks Tinubu to reintroduce self. APC hits back. President has no identity problem, says party. And that's it for the papers this morning. Thank you everyone for watching, and the conversation will continue here on the program. I'm Uyag Bofwebe. Do stay with Global Television.